Let me show you how to get a histogram using Minitab Express. Now previously I did the histogram by hand using 6 classes and using the minimum value of 62 as our lower class limit, and then I constructed the histogram using those class boundaries. We can use Minitab Express to also do a histogram for us. And anything that has to do with a graph, you will need to click on Graphs, and you'll see in this taskbar, the first option is Histogram. And I just want a simple histogram. I only have one variable of data. And I need to tell it what column my data is in. Now I only have one column of data, so I'm just going to click on that. I can double click it and you'll see it moves it over to the Y variable screen or field, and I will click on OK. And let me go back to home, and I want to just take a look at the output only. I don't need to see my spreadsheet. I could move it down, or I could just click on output only. All right. So you'll see that this histogram looks a little different than the one I did by hand. The first thing to notice is that there are 10 classes, whereas I used 6. So there's going to be some differences in shape between the one I did and the one that Minitab defaulted to. And one thing that's nice about Minitab is that if you hover your cursor over a single bar, and the bars are called bins in a histogram, it'll give you some information. So what it says here is that in the bar or the bin that goes from 82 through 86, that would be the class boundaries, that had 14 values. And then this bin that went from 78 to 82 had 13 values. And along the horizontal axis, you'll see that they use something called class midpoints. All right, so each of these tick marks are exactly halfway between the lower value for the bin and the upper value for the bin. So the default histogram in Minitab is fine. However, if you want to make it look exactly like the one that you did, or the one I did by hand, if you click on it, click on the graph, there will be a plus sign here where it says add, remove, or change graph elements such as the title, grid lines, and data labels. If I click on that, I can go ahead and change some attributes to the histogram. What specifically I'm looking for is I'm looking for binning. I want to change the it's not clicking on, there it goes. I want to change the number of bars. So in my example that I did by hand, I had 6 bars. So I'm going to change that to 6. And you'll notice that once I did that, the histogram looks very similar to what I had. However, there's still some differences. Because they're not using the same class limits, the counts are still a little different than what I had before. So what I can do is I can change the cut points. If I click on that, it changes the cut points to be a little more similar to what I had when I had done this problem previously. So for the frequency distribution and the corresponding histogram, the tallest bar that we had a count of 22. So if we hover our cursor over this tall bar, you'll see that the value is 22, that's the number of counts, and that bin goes from 80 to 86. All right, so that corresponding class for the frequency distribution went from 80 to 85. So it's similar, it's not exact, but it's going to be as close as you can get to what you do by hand. If you change the number of bins to match your number of classes and change those cutoffs to not be the midpoint. And then if you want, if you click on this little bar here, you can change the orientation from a vertical orientation to a horizontal orientation. My preference is that I don't like any of my graphs to be in a horizontal orientation, but if that's what you prefer, that's fine. If you right-click on the graph, you can copy your graph, and then you can cut and paste into a Word document if you were doing this for a project, for example. So I hope this helps you get started with the graphing features in Minitab Express.